All right, Infinity Gamer here. So I'm brand new to Infinity, having come from Warhammer 40,000. So I've been playing that for a couple of years and just thought I'd give Infinity a bit of a crack. It looked good. I was at my local gaming store and saw a couple of guys playing it, and I loved how much terrain and stuff was there. And so I thought I'd have a little bit of a look into it. And typical me, decided to jump straight in and buy a whole box set. So this is the 2-player Wildfire kind of introduction set. Comes with models, scenery, rules, pretty much everything you need to do to pick up with the game with a mate and just give it a crack. So had a pretty good look at the book once I got it. It explained the models, all pretty good. Was pretty much very impressed with everything that came out of the box itself. Definitely everything you need to really give Infinity a good crack. So yeah, very, very happy with the book. Pretty easy reading. Now, for those of you that don't know, Infinity is owned by Corvus Belli. That is a company based out of Spain. You can kind of tell that in the book. There's an English side, Spanish side. Now the models themselves, really, really good quality. Pewter. So if you are coming from something like Warhammer 40,000 and you're used to seeing Finecast, very, very different here. Scenery, really, really thick 3mm card, comes with the dice, assembly instructions, which we ignored, and we just tried to throw it together pretty much straight away. And even the tokens, rulers, blast markers, like honestly, this Wildfire set is insane for having absolutely everything you need in it to get going from second one. It comes with a game mat poster kind of thing. So yeah, the game mat is kind of one of the smaller versions. So if you look at any games, battle reps on YouTube, you'll see that sometimes they're played on bigger maps than what's here. But this is perfect for just putting the scenery down, picking up some rules, learning how they go, and just getting started. So absolutely in love with this Wildfire set. Again, highly recommend it. Everything just pops out very, very easy to use. There were a couple of things that we didn't really like, which I am going to explain, because coming from Warhammer 40,000, which is obviously like a really, really insane game already, there were a couple of things that we noticed that were maybe slightly lacking from this Infinity side of things. The Wildfire pack I got included the Advance set, which also included the Sirius bots, and also another special edition model. So if you get Wildfire and it doesn't include these, this was basically a pre-launch version that you could get. So from a packaging side of things, and again, I'm talking generally about first impressions here. So the models are just in like little plastic sachets. Now they're not on like massive sprues. So if you do play Warhammer 40k or anything like that, and you notice that the artwork on the boxes for 40k is really impressive. They come with really detailed instructions. No real assembly instructions at all with any of these models, which is fine because mostly they're just 2 or 3 part pewter models. So once you get them out, it's pretty self-explanatory as to where a lot of things go. I did have a missing piece off something, which may have been an extra, may not. I've got no idea. For a couple of them, I did just end up looking online to see how the models were supposed to look, and just basically made sure that I got that right. But as I said, they're generally only 2 or 3 parts. They're not as complicated as the 40k models. So there's no like different weapons loadouts. There's no different things that you can potentially mess up. It's pretty much just the model. I did feel like the models could come with more. And no more, like even just assembly instructions, just to make sure you're doing right. I don't know, maybe some data sheets or data cards or something like that. I mean, one thing that Infinity doesn't have is it doesn't have the codexes and things like that Warhammer does. You have a free online army builder, which is really useful and does the job perfectly. And so I just kind of felt like I needed a little bit more, but that's just my own impression. Quality of the models, however, absolutely flawless. I don't know what they've done. This obviously the pewter models are just insanely detailed, feel really solid. And even though some of my Warhammer 40k collection is metal models, a lot of it is fine cast, and I do not like the fine cast in comparison to these pewter models that Infinity have got. The details there, you trim off a couple of bits, you sand them down slightly, and you've got a perfect model. Assembly is pretty darn easy. You don't need a lot to kind of get them in an upright and fit to use state. A little bit of super glue. I used some nail clippers just to get rid of some of the excess stuff from the molds. And then I used just like a normal nail file to grind down anything that was extra. The bases, however, are really weird. So unlike in 40k, where there's kind of like either a slot for the base or the newer models don't have any slots in the bases because you just glue the model straight on. In Infinity, these models generally have like some form of footing to go into the base, whether it's like the old school GW slot or whether it's just a pin. But the bases come solid, and then you've kind of got to cut the holes in them to make space for whatever the footing is for that model. So that's a little bit weird, and if you don't have the ability to kind of clean things up afterwards by basing them, then it can end up looking like a little bit scrappy. Good news is much less waste if you are environmentally minded on Infinity models than there are on 40k. So yes, there are the little plastic bags, but they can be used for actually storing tokens and stuff that you get in the game. Whereas with 40k, I've got loads and loads of these kind of sprues, which are just wasted plastic that will never get used ever again. So yeah, one of the things I did notice about some of the Infinity models was that they had quite large gaps. So what you're seeing here is that there's actually a bit of green stuff that's been applied into the gaps of this model. I wasn't completely happy with the distance between two components, so filled it with green stuff. There was no real way to get them to align 100% perfectly. I don't know how you would do that. And in fact, I've spoken to a couple of other people since getting this, and a couple of the models are particularly well known for having some slightly bigger gaps in them than they probably should do. Things like the Gamma unit for the O12, definitely, like, which is what you're seeing here. Between the shoulders, which is the part of the unit, quite large gaps. And for some people, that's going to be fine. And once you paint it, it's not going to be really, really noticeable. But I had some green stuff just lying around from, again, the Warhammer collection. So I just thought I'd throw that on there just to make sure that there wasn't any unnecessary gaps. Took a little bit of work, but it's easier actually, weirdly, with the metal models. So didn't take long at all. So that's a lot of the model prep that's happening there. What I'm going to do in my next couple of videos is talk about some of the learner missions that come in Wildfire, why they're good, why they suck, and talk a little bit more about the game itself.